Hey, I'm Daniel Berger, and this is Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. Welcome to the podcast where Metro New York real estate meets great stories and a douse of humor. Forget the dry sales talk. Here we dive into the fun and unexpected moments of real estate. Join me each week as we explore Westchester, Long Island, the Bronx, and more. You'll hear about the people, the places, and the crazy situations that make this industry so interesting. Thanks to our sponsor, Remax Prestige Properties, we're ready to share the lighter side of real estate. Whether you're a pro, a buyer, or just curious, we've got something for everyone. Ready for today's adventure? Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker with Daniel Berger, where we basically try to get cool people, interesting people on each week to talk about what's going on in their lives, with their business, and what's made them successful. So many times we like to have people that are very successful people, but also people that have really done so much with their life. And today, I'm excited to have Ron Koenigsberg from Long Island, who's the president of American Investment Properties. I don't want to date him, but decades in business. He has a BS in accounting from American University. Then he thought that wasn't enough education, so he got an MBA from NYU in real estate. He's also a proud author of a new book called Power Broker. And with that, I just wanted to introduce everyone to Ron. How are you today, Ron?
I'm fantastic, Daniel. That was a great introduction. Thanks so much. Let's share some business insights. Let's share some.
Well, I
Let's.
think before we get into business, I want to, you know what? Business is what we're doing now as older men. But I think what got you to this place is, I think, something that's a lot that you're better, different, and special than a lot of people. You know, what they always say is when life gives you lemons make lemonade. And, you know, what one thing that I think is really something special about you is obviously that growing up in the 80s, so you're diagnosed with dyslexia, which is
Yeah,
not something back in our day. You know, you were
yeah,
probably a trouble kid or not a smart kid,
yeah.
as opposed
That's
to,
right.
you know, you just didn't process it in a way. And you were able to basically, you know, I was reading a little bit about you where I didn't know about it. So it was easier to make fun of it or you're different. And that didn't really get you down where you basically worked on things that didn't, where
No,
dyslexia wasn't important, like your interpersonal skills or
yeah.
sports. So how did that affect you growing up with feeling that something was different from you than other people and what you did to bust out of that?
Yeah. I remember entering the fifth grade and trying to learn. And I remember I grew up in Plainview, Long Island, and I remember that was where the disconnect happened for me, the fifth grade. I was able to, I guess, we worked out of these reading, people would progress in these reading books, and I just didn't progress. I just couldn't, progress. I really, one out of six people is dyslexic. I think I'm deeply dyslexic. Reading is a real challenge for me. And my brother would come home, he'd read beautifully. I'd get a chance to read out loud, and my parents just laughed at me. I mean, they weren't trying to laugh at me. I don't know. The bottom line is they're human. And, you really want to be a dummy. If you can't read, I was born in 1964. By the time I was in the fifth grade, it was 1970. But, 1969 and 1970, if you couldn't read, no one's ever heard of dyslexia. You were just a dummy. So that's fine. I really started out feeling like a dummy. And it all starts from there. It really does. Everything about me starts from the fact that I couldn't read and I'm a dummy.
Which is amazing because you get your BS in accounting, right,
Yeah.
from American University. So, yeah, I'm a dummy when it comes to accounting. Numbers are not my thing, spreadsheets are not my thing. So it's really, right, like I kind of wish you were graded on real estate growing up in high school and college because I would do well. And the regular things that were graded on were not the things that like I was drawn to
Yeah.
or connected as much with.
Yeah.
So that's amazing, you know, and
Yeah.
you work for
Being
Arthur
dyslexic.
Anderson.
Yeah. Being dyslexic really, the skills that we're going to talk about, the life that I've developed, being a consistent $1 million commercial real estate producer year after year after year. I'm 60. I've been doing this for almost 30 years, named Commercial Broker of the Year by three different publications. So The bottom line is everything was defined by the fact that no matter what happens in a deal, no matter how creative we get, I never feel smart. I think it's a big advantage. I do. I do. I see people that really get full of themselves. I don't have that ability. I'm so ingrained that I'm not that smart. And if someone said to me, what's the top 10 things about you? I would say I make a lot of phone calls. I work hard. I listen well. Smart wouldn't be in the top 50.
That's only because that's your perception of what smart is, right? So I feel that interpersonal skills is being intelligent because you're able to see what cues are from people. You're able to, when you hear words of what people say, what words are going to come next. They're going to make people feel supportive and want to
That's
stay
right.
with you and work with you. So, that's what I'm saying about book smart, where I'm not a good standard test taker and I probably have ADD in the sense that it's hard for me to concentrate. Who knows? But that's the whole point, that you took what was given to you and you really turned it around. And so, besides obviously being a top tier broker, you're also really a mentor now to people in your office, right? So,
Of
you're
course.
doing
Yeah.
so much with whatever you were given.
Right.
So, that's
I
amazing.
will tell you, I realized at fifth grade that I couldn't read. I didn't know what to do with it. I don't know if I told people I couldn't read. I believe I hid it. I think I was just embarrassed. But I remember being around the age of 15, and my dad was a life insurance salesman who wanted to be a lot more. And he was self-educating himself. And one of the things that he read was Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And for some reason, I found it on books on tape back then. I was like one of the originators
Right.
of books on
Was it
tape because
eight track tape or was it actually a cassette tape?
it was actually a cassette tape.
Okay, just
And I
checking.
remember hearing, right, and I remember hearing about 15% of one's financial success is due to one's technical knowledge. Everything we know about commercial real estate, and 85% is the skill in human engineering. And that's where I heard that. And I said, the ability to lead people, the ability to work with other people. And Carnegie, he emphasizes the significance of soft skills such as communication, relationship building, and achievement and professional success. And truthfully, I believe what Dale Carnegie said is correct. And let's just say that I'm always in the top, 3% of earners in America because it's not about reading. And now I have ChatGPT. Really, I just upload all my PDFs, all my documents, and it tells me in a really simple way what it says. I just ask it to abstract it in a few sentences, large documents.
Right.
So, yeah. So, and that's 19.99 a month. And the truth of the matter is if anybody's out there, and one of six people are dyslexic, if anybody's out there, listen, I started using ChatGPT. I had no idea what I was going to be doing. I'm 60 years old. I'm certainly not from this computer generation. But I will tell you this, for 20 bucks a month, I don't write a letter without running it past my personal letter writer. I point to this screen because I literally have two screens that I work off of, one for email, one for work off of, and a third screen just for ChatGPT because I'm dyslexic, because I don't write well. If English is a second language to you, if you're listening, if you have problems writing well, even if you write well, my attitude is for $20 a month, I don't ever have to worry about my ability to write or recall.
Right.
Meaning,
I think that's amazing that it's certainly it's a better time to be dyslexic now as a child than it would be when you grew up, where people didn't understand differences. And now that's very much a part of how do we help people and using technology. I mean, computers are an amazing thing to be able to help us do our job in the most professional way. But, like you said, the reading of it, that's the least of what maybe it's 15%, maybe it's less because of your relationships. Obviously you have to understand the deal, but understanding the deal, it's the creativity of putting together the deal where people might have different opinions on or different sides from a buy and a sell, and how do you get people to meet in the middle? And that's clearly something that you've excelled at over 3 decades.
thank you. I love being a broker. It's a fun job. It's a fun job. Listen, I'm going to tell this to anyone listening out there. And, 85% of your job is to be a psychiatrist, psychologist, to get along with other people, understanding really what's bothering them and speak to that. you know,
Yeah, that I agree 100%. Couple weeks ago, I had a friend sleeping over. We were watching some sports or whatever, and he was like passing in and out. And I was on the phone from about 11 p.m. till midnight with one of my clients. And it was a client where there's three sisters that own a house. Their parents passed away, and he's in and out of sleep. I wake him up. I'm finished at midnight, and I'm like, yeah, sorry. I had to take the call. He
sure.
goes, you weren't doing anything with real estate. You're not a real estate broker. You're a therapist. Because I was really talking about how that person can relate to the one sister that's trying to dominate the
Right,
sale of the house and how it's
right,
breaking up the family. And it
right.
really, we didn't talk about the price of the house. We talked
Nothing.
about strategies to work with your sister, because what my position was that their parents did not, one of the sisters felt that the parents always wanted them to have a house. And my view, and I was saying, is that the parents are no longer alive. You can't recreate what that house was, and the memories, those are in your heart. And I'm sure that their parents wouldn't want the three siblings to be fighting
That's right.
over
That's right.
do we
That's right.
keep the house to rent? Do we
I can
sell?
promise you, I have two sons myself, and I want to give them everything. But the last thing I want to do is for them to be fighting over things.
And my thought was, even that, even if their parents did think that having the house to keep as a rental, where it could keep the family together, it turned into more, because the house needs a lot of work. They can't really
Well,
afford
here's
that.
my question to you. Here's my question to you, Daniel. Okay. So now we both agree the most important skill someone listening can go out there and learn are these interhuman skills. Where do they go learn it? There are 4,000 American universities and colleges today. How many colleges do you think have one class out of the 4,000 in teaching these skills, in teaching people how to sell?
Selling, maybe, but how about active listening? Put a class in active listening. I didn't, because that was one maybe I could do okay with. Although I do a lot of talking, so I'm not really sure. But I know that active listening is something that's so important, and
There's
and
a
I
whole
think
chapter. It's chapter number one in my book.
so. There
It's
you go. So you
Power
should be the
Broker. Chapter
professor
number
now.
one is the absolute most important thing anyone could do in both life and in business to be successful. What is active listening? Putting away your distractions, closing off all the windows, putting away your telephone, putting it on the side, focusing. Now, you want to be a great active listener? Can you mirror somebody? Can you repeat back the last few things that they've said? So say you say to me, hey, Ron, having a great day. Daniel, sounds like you're having a great day. If we can acknowledge and hear each other, it's the closest thing we have to a modern day mind meld. It's magic.
I'm not a professor at Hofstra University,
I'm sorry,
which
what's
is
up?
close. You should be a professor at Hofstra University in the business school or in the
Sounds fun.
psychology. So
No,
we
that
got to
sounds
we got
fun. Well,
we got to work on
that,
that.
yeah, yeah. So that's right. So I wrote a book. And the first thing I want to acknowledge was that there are 9 topics that should be taught in school. Okay. If you sit down with people and you say to them, these 9 topics, let's have fun with it. Okay. Let's talk about the first one, resilience. How important is resilience in life and in business? It's everything, baby. It's everything. Right?
Yep.
Bouncing back. The book wasn't, you know, if bad things happen to good people. The book is literally called When Bad Things Happen to Good People.
Well, bad things happen, whether it so that whether something's bad or it's something that is a stressful situation, right? Every time we in the real estate world, every time you pick up the phone, something happened, right? There's a problem with the title, there's a problem with the inspection, so it's like, how do you then take those problems, right? And then and get
Let's talk
solutions
about
based.
even bigger problems.
Yeah,
All right. All right. I come home. I find out I'm going through a divorce. I'm no longer wanted. I
right.
lost pretty much everything. You know how many other people have been through things like that? Almost
Many.
everybody.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's what I'm talking about resilience. When you're sitting there and you're like, I can't start over. I'm 56 years old. I'm 60 now. It happened about 4 years ago, something like that. But anyway, listen, you got to pick yourself up. It happens to everybody. Resilience. Let's have a class in resilience. Understand bad things are going to happen to good people. Let's prepare your mind for it. Let's fully understand that it's mindset. I'm back. I'm producing. I'm in the top percentage again. But when I thought I was going to lose all my money and my kids,
I mean, resilience, to be fair, though, you are allowed to, when something bad happens, you are allowed to, like,
of course, you're supposed to.
mourn what happened and then strategize. But because we're in it for the long term, you do have to kind of pick yourself up and be like, what do
That's
I
right.
want to do when I grow up?
That's
And
right.
real estate's like my third or fourth career.
Me
Um,
too.
I'm like in 8 years into real estate. Pretty quickly, I'm like, I can't work for a brokerage. I need to be the broker
Good for
because
you.
I can't deal with stupid rules. That like bothers me to no end.
Okay.
Tell me what the rule is, tell me what the law is, and I'm going to make a common sense approach to getting through something, as opposed to somebody like a corporation saying, well, this is the way that our lawyers told us to do it, or this is the way that we've always done it. So I think the solutions based approach is also what
Okay.
has allowed me to keep having repeat business, because people see, they're like, wow, you're not the same, and you don't, or you do this or you do that.
Right.
And that's kind
All
of,
right. So let's talk
that's what
about
I
one more
want to do.
skill. Let's get into
Sure.
negotiation. Okay. Let's talk about negotiation. Now, the average real estate broker, the average person out there gets into a lot of negotiations. The best book, if you're listening, regarding negotiations is It's Amazing, Christopher Voss. Never Split the Difference. Wow. What a book. Okay. And yeah, if you haven't read it, please pick up my book, Power Broker, but pick up Never Split the Difference. Negotiation is about the 4 C's. The 4 C's. You can't skip steps because it's a dance. And if you start skipping steps on a dance, you're going to look awkward. Number one, you go into a meeting, guys, you got to reframe it. What are the common interests? We're at closing. Everybody wants to rip everyone's head off. Hey, we woke up this morning. We all went through this entire transaction because you want to sell and you want to buy. That is the common interest. It's always the common interest. There's conflicting interests. I understand. You're unhappy because you want $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000, or in commercial real estate, $100,000 or $400,000 off because there's a roof problem. In commercial, it's roofs are expensive. So a lot of times it's roofs. Third C, let's talk about criteria. Criteria is, what do we do in these deals? What does the contract of sale say? The contract says delivered leak free. No one said you're getting a new roof. No one said so at that point, that sets the stage for the all important part 4, compromise. Common, conflicting interests, criteria, compromise. My kids always say to me, Did you win? Did you win the negotiation? No, you don't win negotiations. You survive them. You win commission checks. You win deals. You close
Well,
deals.
I would say you earn a commission check.
You earn a
You're right.
commission check.
You don't need to win. It's basically, if there's a, why is there a winner and a loser? Why can't there be people meeting in the middle where, just like you said, it's not everyone gets what you want. You get some of what you want, you don't get others, which is kind of, not that I want to get all political here, but if our politicians would feel the same way to help Americans, they would all get in a room and they would help Americans. The one side's not going to win, the other side's not going to win. You have to meet and try. The goal
Right.
would be to
It's
help people.
compromise. It's compromise.
Yeah.
So knowing that we are in a situation where we got to learn to compromise, it's setting the stage. It's the first 3 steps. Everybody needs to know why they're in this. Okay. Like those sisters, let's go back to them. Guys, we're just trying to do the best we can to sell this house, to make as much money. Okay. Let's talk about the conflicting interest. Let's talk about what other families have done. Let's talk about how the will reads. Let's talk about, and then let's talk about a compromise. So, listen, if I'm going to be a professor at Nassau Community College or at Hofstra, or if I'm just going to be a regular real estate broker and try to be a super dad, because that's my number one criteria, I want to talk about understanding resilience. It's key. Negotiation. Wait, you said active listening. It's my number one. Let's talk about public speaking. You want to be a leader? Want to be successful? Let's talk about public speaking. How are you at public speaking? Put you in front of a group. What do you think, Dan?
I've done it throughout my years, okay, but it really depends. I think my best is probably in smaller groups, but I spoken in front of 1,000, 2,000 people. I have at different events. It's not something that I love, but so I don't have to do that regularly or
Hmm.
rarely anymore. You know, so you can always improve, right? So the things that as a public speaker, though,
Well,
there
first
clearly are
thing,
people
the
that
first
would do
thing
better.
I want to have in my book is an understanding of the fear of public speaking, because it's a real fear and there's a reason for it. And it's not silly. No, it's called glossophobia, and it's a real phobia, and we all have it to some degree. And the reason why we have it is there's a fear of public speaking. We used to live in small groups, small tribes. We used to live in small communities. We'd look out for each other. The fear, it was always of speaking out and being criticized, saying something really humiliating, rejection, ostracized, social isolation, and embarrassment. So what happens is this has been in our human condition, this fear of speaking publicly for so long that no one is going to kick us out of any groups. We're going to be fine. Everything that's in your mind is going to be well received. However, getting your mind to get over this claustrophobia is because it's hard baked in to our subconscious minds for so many thousands of years. And I think, anyone listening right now, if you have a public speaking, if you don't have a public speaking place where you're practicing this from time to time, join Toastmasters. I've checked it out. Get on podcasts, force yourself to do it, because only practice gets you ahead in this game, because there is a hardwire fear. And if you put me in front of 1,000 people right now, I better be well practiced, because otherwise I'm going to be well nervous.
Well, the funny thing is when you talk about things that can make you a fear of public speaking, I would say social media has actually brought some of those things down. I would the barriers down
I agree.
because you can do something. I can do something on my Facebook, my Instagram, and I can be criticized by everybody, right?
Yeah.
And so I think whether it's in a family text group that my kids are like, Dad, why did you say, so I can get criticized I'm used to being criticized. So
Right.
from that standpoint, I probably don't have the fear. I
Right.
do think that in order to be successful, you do need to be able to put yourself out there and say, you're not going to always be perfect, and then grow from it. Right. And try, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, that's wrong. That's probably more stupidity, right? But we
Right.
constantly doing
Right.
that as opposed to trying to be better, to adapt. So those are the things that I think that are important. And I guess what's good about being a real estate broker is, so we're doing a podcast right now, but it's two of us, right? Many people can look at it. It's
That's
recorded,
right.
and then it makes it a lot easier. But I've been on some television shows, but when you're on a television show, it's just a camera in the studio. You don't see everybody there. So if you're just being yourself and natural, it is
Hmm.
probably easier to talk about things, as opposed to not really sure what the topic is or shooting from the hip, right? So,
Let's talk about communication. Let's talk about communication for a minute. It's one of my 9 skills. It's something you just mentioned right there. Science teaches us communication is 55, 38, 7. What? This guy's got a formula of communication. Where's the science there? Okay. 55% of personal communication is body language and facial expressions. I mean, if I look all angry, you're gonna know, well, what's going on. All right, that's 55% of communication. 38% is tonality. How someone speaks to you. Trust me, I've been angry. I don't speak like this. I speak enraged when I'm enraged.
you
And,
haven't even gotten to what the words are coming out of someone's mouth yet.
7%.
Yeah.
7%. And the reason why I mention that is because 7% of our message is what we text. 7% of our message is what we email. 93% of our feelings, our emotions are left off of our communications. So people say to me, how do you miscommunicate properly? I say, text back and forth and never talk. Guys, if it's 3 texts, pick up the phone. After 3 texts back and forth, that's it. So what's happened? 76% of Generation Z, people born between 1990 and 2010, report phone anxiety if they need to make one phone call. 78% of customers said they'd rather text a business than have to call it. We're creating, the science teaches us it's body language, it's tone, it's 7% message. We're creating a world where we're only leaving off 93%. We're creating a world where miscommunicating.
Well, it's definitely true that what you write in a text can be misread, which means that you have to actually spend more time putting that text together to ensure, because maybe they don't get that emojis, the smiley face or whatever. But and joke, I generally like to put humor in what I say. That's much more difficult in text and it
That's right.
could come off incorrectly. So it's really important. But yeah, I agree. So phone call, I generally try to communicate in the way that my clients do. So if they're texting, I'll text. If they want to talk on the phone, I'll talk on the phone. But you're right. In order to really get proper message off, even on the telephone, when you can't see the person. So that is why like
Yeah,
Zooms
when I was
and
growing up, no, when I was growing up, there was a statistic that more heart attacks happen while people are on telephones than any other way. Because what happened was they wanted to communicate, but they didn't have the ability to have somebody in front of them, and they were losing 55%. So they're frustrated. They got more and more frustrated. They got enraged. As they got enraged, they got sick. Point is, first off, knowing that if it's important and this is really critical, get yourself in front of somebody. If you want a yes, give yourself the best 100% chance to use the communication. Now, I know what you're thinking. You can't be in front of everybody all day long. Right. So that's where, truthfully, I'm on the phone all the time. I'm on the phone more than anybody. I'm just on the phone at work. When I'm in my car, I'm on the phone. I don't know. I guess I grew up in a way. I want to speak to people. I do.
I think people appreciate that. And so I think you need to, when it's appropriate to talk, then you do that. But you also have to judge your people.
Like you, there is no better way for me in commercial real estate for this high, just a lot of guys are really, really rich property owners. How do I differentiate myself? Right away. When I first heard about texting, I thought it was for friends. It was a very personal thing. It appeared instantly. It was very casual. It's a friendship. I text with people right away. I want to create friendships. If you're listening out there, you want to change the relationship with somebody, send them a text.
It's something that's easy you can do. You can be very, with the wording, you're very polite. So with a client right away, you're also trying to show them, I'm here for you and I'm a text away and I'll answer you
How cool is
with,
that?
I mean, it's certainly, again, our
I love
technology,
it.
you were talking about the heart attacks. I think heart attacks happened back in the day with phones because you had to put your finger in the phone, you had to circle or dial it. And when somebody else was on the phone, you got a busy signal. And so you had to do it like you would do it
How
two
about if
minutes
someone,
later.
yeah, how about you had like four phones throughout the house, and if somebody else just wanted to make a phone call, and you were on the phone, they literally picked up in the middle of your conversation and
Like,
said hello,
Mom,
and you said,
I'm on the
I'm on the
phone.
phone. Yeah, I'm on the phone.
Oh,
It took
tell
me
me when
like
you're off.
exactly.
Exactly.
Tell me when you're off. Yeah, no, definitely technology is a game changer. And really, I think this pandemic in many ways was a game changer. And what I mean by that is in 2019, I mean, literally just 5 years ago, 20%, one out of five people were self-employed, filed a 1099 self-employed tax return. Now, Department of Labor says in 2027, just 8 years after that number, we're going to go from 1 in 5 to 1 in 2, 50, 50% of Americans will be self-employed. There's gig economy,
Well,
this going
I
from
think
gig to
that's
gig to
part of it
gig.
too. Is I think the gig economy is also is that you have to have your side hustle, right? So even if someone is a W-2 employee, I think you're still going to have entrepreneurial a business that you're doing or something extra to supplement. So I think that's part of why it's that high. But clearly, There's also probably a drive of bigger companies and you know this more being in the commercial real estate world, is that people are trying not to have people come in the office as much, more work from home, and and independent contractors as opposed to employees because the regulations it's really difficult, right?
Yeah, let me
So
speak to that for a quick second because, obviously being in business, being in and around business, I graduated from American University in 1986 and graduated from NYU with my master's in 1989. Let's just say I've been in business since 1990, really and truly. It took me a few years. I've only been in real estate for 30 years. So I've been in and around real estate for 30 years. And I remember this is true, buying my first bar of soap on Amazon. It was 2004. And what happened was I lived in New York City. I lived in Manhattan, and it was like $6 a bar for one bar. It was New York City, man. It was crazy. If it wasn't six, it was three, but it was. So then I went on to Amazon and I could get 10 bars for $6 or something like that. It was something so crazy. And I said to myself at that point, we have a problem in retail. If I can buy one bar or versus 10 bars, I'm not the only one that's going to buy 10 bars of soap for the one bar price. So I said, we got a problem. And we did. We did. I was in the front cover of Long Island Business News in 2016. And the article was called Apocalypse Now. Real estate, commercial real estate, retail was going to be an apocalypse. We adjusted. We adjusted. And what I mean by we adjusted is we have almost 0% retail vacancy in Nassau County. It's 3.5. It's 4.5 in Suffolk County, but that's near zero.
exactly.
What I'm trying to say is that retail adjusted. Office, your guess is as good as mine. This work from home thing, I am. We'll see. We'll see how it shakes out.
I mean, but from our commercial real estate, but now medical facilities are much bigger than they were 20, 30 years ago, because with science, there's more testing that can be done. So they need facilities to run those tests, and
I have a
it's not
great
just
office. I have a great medical office complex in Plainview, Long Island right now. So if we're going to be plugging medical office, I have a great one. Yeah, people are living longer, Daniel. That's right. So there are other needs. Right. So while office, and I fully agree, office is 100% yet to be determined because I don't know. I agree. This work from home thing, these leases haven't come due. I learned in the office. I don't know how these people are going to learn, but
well,
yes,
that's when we talked about the pandemic. I mean, that's also, we learned in offices because it's so much when someone can walk into your office and start a conversation, that's where education, communication, and tutoring can happen, mentoring. Actually, I do have an office. I've downsized this year because I'm never there. I,
that's what I think is the future of office. And I'd like that to be my future. My lease comes due in 2026. We got a lot of space here. I would like to downsize.
so
However, I know one thing. I know one thing. My door happens to be closed at this moment, and I just do it for podcasts. Otherwise, it's always open. I want to hear what they're saying, and I want them, more importantly, to hear what I'm saying, how I say it, my level of professionalism, how I go through our broker price opinions. I want to share information organically through osmosis. Oh, I just heard that, you know, in the
to
environment.
hear a little bit of Ron's magic before the podcast started because you turned yourself on and you weren't up yet. I heard a conversation of you mentoring, and I was chuckling because I was like, you know,
I
I
didn't
I
know that was
totally
on.
I totally appreciated what you said, and you were right. So,
I don't even
but
remember what that was, but I
I
do
you know,
remember. Yeah,
I,
but I do remember when I looked, my microphone was unmuted. I don't know how it starts that way. I guess they do that for you, but
your picture, what your video
but
wasn't up.
but my video wasn't up. That's right.
Right. I wasn't
It's
recording,
fine. No,
and you
it's
were,
fine. No,
I was learning. I was learning, so like because I'm residential, people and the agents that I have they're not agents that want to come to an office because so wouldn't be bad, but on the other hand, I feel that's like where my work-life balance is right now. I'm in my home and I have my 9-week-old puppy under my legs. And so I'm able to work many, many more hours because, I can golf for this amount of times. I can do this. But it's always like my work-life balance means that I'm always available to text, to call, and I go until I pass out every night. But I love what I do, and I can sense that so do you because we both have the same energy and smiles. And when we talk about what we do, it's not like a dread, right? We don't
No,
have
I love
dread.
it.
We
I
have
love it.
excitement,
I
and
love it.
it's more people. And how do we help people? And I
I
think
would like to work more from home. I'm in my office a lot. I would like to be with my puppy. I happen to have a 5-year-old dog. I do. I love that dog. My young son named him Batman. And I was like, Batman's
uh,
not a name for a dog. He said, no,
well, it
Batman.
is if your son names it Batman.
Yeah.
So we just
So
had to
yeah.
we just had to pick dog names, and with the name like Burger, I was trying to get Smash Burger,
Nice.
Mason Burger, but the family did it. We did a stack rank vote, and it was
Love that.
between Angus Burger, where they were going to call it Gus, but we ended up picking Montana Burger, Monty Burger. So Monty Burger sounds like a guy that was in the Lower East Side that you'd have to go to the pickle store to go pick out the sour pickles in the barrel. So
Monty, can you help me pick out a good sour
exactly,
pickle? Yeah, no
exactly.
question
So
about it. I think my next dog is going to be called Ace because Batman had a dog and his dog was named Ace. So I
right,
think that's what my kids are
Ace is
circling.
Ace is certainly not a bad deal, but
Cool name.
so. Well, Ron, I want to thank you for the time that we spent. It's just a
It's a
little bit of
pleasure.
nuggets. I do want to encourage people to go get your book, The Power Broker. Just,
It's on Amazon. It's on Audible. I literally read it. I'm dyslexic. I was thinking about having somebody else read it. I think I did an okay job. I don't read well, but you certainly get the emotion. You get the thick New York accent,
it's
and
it's also from you, and I don't feel that the other view is nobody needs to be perfect. You know what? Just be the best Ron that you can be, and that should be good enough. So, that's my view is that you're doing well enough. You should be satisfied with that. Obviously, try to get a little bit better when you can,
no,
but
I'm competitive. I definitely, Daniel, I'm competitive, and I think that's what keeps me wanting to learn more, wanting to. I don't want to be left behind. I still want to be a top commercial real estate broker. Truth is, yeah, listen, nothing gets you to understand yourself better when you really lose it all. I mean, you're like, I got no money. And then I thought to myself, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it again. But I'm not mad about the fact that, I lost so much in the divorce because I love making those deals. I was happy making those deals. And the truth is, I wouldn't want to spend my life any other way.
right.
Making deals makes me happy. And I hope someone else out there is saying, hey, you know what I do, installing glass, or I don't know, making pizzas because I eat so much damn pizza. I love that stuff. Or selling homes or adding value to someone in some other way makes me happy because that's the great takeaway.
Right. Well, you definitely have to do what makes you happy. Check out the Power Broker. If you're on Long Island and need one of the top real estate, commercial real estates, Ron's your guy. Uh, for another week of the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker, I'm Daniel Berger, and Ron, thank you so much for
So
for coming
thank you,
on.
my friend. So cool. Thank you.
Thanks for joining me on the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. I hope you enjoyed our time together as much as I did. If you laughed, learned something, or just had a good time, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the podcast. A big shout out to our sponsor, Remax Prestige Properties, for making this all possible. Remember to leave a review if you enjoyed the show. It helps more people find us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it fun, and keep exploring the adventures in your neighborhood. I'm Daniel Berger, your New York realtor, and I'll see you in the next episode.